As a seasoned movie aficionado with a penchant for all things fantasy, I find it intriguing how the acting world intertwines across different productions. The latest installment of this fascinating connection is found in Amazon's The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, where not one but two main villains share an unexpected link to HBO's Game of Thrones. As a passionate movie enthusiast, I can't help but share an intriguing tidbit about Amazon's epic series, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. This captivating tale doesn't just have one menacing force at play, it has several. Initially, during the first season, Adar takes the spotlight as the primary antagonist, setting the stage for chaos. However, in the second season, a new villain emerges in the form of Run's Dark Wizard, poised to stir up trouble for the stranger Nori and Poppy. Interestingly enough, before Halbrand unveils his true self at the end of season 1, there is an unexpected link to Game of Thrones in his character, adding another layer of intrigue to this already mesmerizing storyline. Despite Adar and Rum's wizard characters having distinct personalities within the Rings of Power, they share a commonality as they become the main antagonists following Sauron. Interestingly, the actors portraying these villains also shared screen time in Game of Thrones. This is not unusual, given the many performers work on various projects within the same genre. However, what makes it intriguing is that the actors from the Rings of Power hail from the same region in Game of Thrones, which seems like an odd coincidence. It turns out that the actor who portrays Adar in the Rings of Power's first season and the Rune Wizard in the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power also appears beyond the wall in Game of Thrones. In the former series, Joseph Mawle gives life to Adar, though a different actor plays the character in subsequent seasons. Mawle is known for his role as Benjen Stark in Game of Thrones, the brother of Ned, and the first ranger of the Night's Watch. Benjen goes missing beyond the wall that later returns to save Jon Snow. Mawle's transformation from a heroic figure like Benjen to the villainous Adar offers a fresh take on his acting skills. In the second season of The Rings of Power, Ciarán Hinds, known for his enigmatic dark wizard character, shares a slight resemblance to an antagonist from Game of Thrones, and Hinds previously played Mance Rayder in HBO's fantasy series, where he was initially perceived as an adversary to Jon and the Night's Watch, despite being an honorable figure. Interestingly, both Mawle and Hinds had portrayed characters residing beyond the wall in Game of Thrones. In a departure from Game of Thrones, The Rings of Power doesn't boast many leading actors from its cast, but it does introduce another recognizable face beyond Mawle, and finally, in this 10.
Hinds, notably Robert Aramayo, who portrayed Elrond in Game of Thrones, reappears in flashback sequences as a young Ned Stark. His performance in the HPS expanded role in The Rings of Power, all the more intriguing. It's possible that we might see other Game of Thrones actors join the cast of The Rings, and with upcoming seasons. Given its epic fantasy setting, it shares many similarities with Game of Thrones, making a crossover equally enticing